Yo, what is going on, guys? It is Monday, March 22nd, early in the morning. I bring to you a mini review of the PowerColor AMD Radeon 6700 XT Red Devil. So this is a mid-range card that I wanted to try from AMD. I waited in line at Micro Center on a launch day of this card from 1:30 a.m. up until 10 a.m. to get it on a cold, miserable day. And I waited, so I was patient. I did that also with the 3090, the basic stuff that I got. And so this is mid-range card, 12 gigabytes of DDR6 memory, and it's tailored as a 1440p card, custom cooled with RGB. I'll show you the back of the box if you want to pause and read some of the specs. So 7nm GPU. It does, of course, have ray tracing. Now, not necessarily as good as AMD's second generation of ray tracing on the 3090 series, but pretty good. Dual BIOS, RGB, backplate, nice lighting. So I'll show you the card, and then we'll see what's next. Okay, so here's the card, and one thing I will tell you, compared to the Asus TUF 3090 I have, this thing is massive. I mean, if you look at my case, from where the I/O sits, I mean, it almost takes up the entire length of the motherboard. Well, of course, beyond the motherboard, but beyond, to the case, so it's a really, really massive card. I'm in the BIOS right now, so everything is kind of like in rainbow mode, which I don't really normally have. Normally, everything I have in blue. But here's the RGB lighting on the Radeon 5700 XT Red Devil. It's got a little bit in the front, and then this back area has some lighting. And then, so I'm running an MSI X570 motherboard with AMD Ryzen 9 5950X, 32 gigabytes of G.Skill Royal Z memory, 3200 megahertz speed, and CL14 timings. And then everything is cooled, at least the CPU is cooled by a Corsair H159 Capellix, which is RGB lighting also, and radiator set up to intake, and then of course everything else will be blue when I boot into Windows. I'll show you the BIOS settings. Okay, so here's the BIOS settings. Now this is with the latest BIOS. Now it has a build date of 2-24-2021, and of course I just have the Ryzen 9 5950X, and then I have it overclocked to 4.65 GHz, DDR speed set to 3200 MHz, and then I'll show you my settings. Now I just want to show you how to set up Resizable Bar. So make sure you do have the latest BIOS, so do keep that in mind. So on my motherboard, so you're going to go to Settings, Advanced, PCI subsystem settings, and then Resizable Bar, which is the first one up here. And then you're just going to choose Enable, which should have already enabled. Okay, so that's pretty simple. And then that's for the overclock settings, the Ryzen 9. I got overclocked to 4.65 gigahertz, so CPU ratio set to 46.5. I could go higher, but I'm just going to have it a little bit lower this time. And then, let's see what else we got to do. And then up to advanced CPU configuration, AMD overclocking, precision boost overdrive, but advanced. And then a curve optimizer. I have it set to a negative offset of 12, all core. That seems to be the magic setting for my particular 5950X. And then one person said in one of their videos to disable PBO limits. I'm going to try that. Hopefully it'll still stay stable. So do disable that if you want a little bit more power limit. And then for voltages, I'm going to scroll down. These are my memory timings. These are the stock settings. So voltage settings, override mode. I'm going to choose that and have it set to 1.365. And then that's it. So let's boot into Windows. I will run TimeSpy, Port Royal, and then I'll run some games quickly and show you the frames per second and also the noise of the fan and stuff. So stay tuned for that. Okay, so now I'm in Windows. I wanted to show you all the RGB lighting being blue now, which is how I usually have it, because blue is always my favorite color. So everything's all blue. And then I'll show you my overclock settings for the AMD Ryzen. The 6700 XT. Okay, so here's the settings for the AMD Radeon 6700 XT. So these are the stock settings: GPU clock 57 MHz, memory 2000 MHz, boost clock 2614 MHz, which is amazing boost clock, by the way. And then, as I showed you in the BIOS, I do have Resizable Bar enabled. So with the latest version of GPU-Z, it does show that. And then, so I basically just kind of leave it at stock. And then on MSI Afterburner, I basically just raise the power limit and I'll leave the fan at auto. and we'll see how everything goes. And then we'll see. I'll show you also briefly in TimeSpy what it sounds like for the sound. But the card runs so cool. I mean, like under load, so it shouldn't be an issue. So we'll see how everything goes. So I'll run TimeSpy now. Oh, and just a small tip: whenever you're benchmarking and you want to get the most out of your CPU, if you have RGB lighting like on your keyboard and mouse and all that stuff, and then also of course on the AIO, what you want to do is you want to go to your tray here, and then you're going to exit out of all those things, and of course it's going to obviously not show your stock or customized colors, and just get out of all those, and you could even disable Windows security if you needed to, but I don't have to do that, I don't think. And so I'm gonna basically disable all that stuff to get a little bit more CPU processes. Of course now everything is all, rainbow mode, but oh well, just wanted to show you that little tip. Okay, so currently benchmarking TimeSpy. Just wanted to show you the stats. So look at that. It's amazing seeing a GPU clock that high. Of course it's a mid-range card, but that's an amazing boost speed. And then the card GPU is sitting at 57C. 58C. I'm sure it's going to go up a little bit as the graphics test goes to a higher length. And then so here's the noise. That's silent. I think there's a slight, tiny trace of coil line, but nothing major. I don't know if you can even hear it, but it's a very slight coil line, which I didn't get with my 3090, I don't think. So I'll let these benchmarks run, and I'll show you where everything sits, but pretty good so far. Okay, so we're on the last benchmark, which is the CPU test for the Ryzen 9 5950X, and then I'm going to basically live show you the score, so as it comes up after this last test. Okay, big reveal, TimeSpy, AMD Radeon 6700 XT. The score so far, let's see where we're sitting at. Okay, 12,537, so not too bad. Graphics score 12,142. CPU score 15,376. And yeah, not too bad. So that was, of course, with the show you GPU 0 quick. The settings I used. Didn't overclock, just basically at stock, so just raised the power limit basically. As you can see, I'm sorry. Okay, so now let's run Port Royal, which I'm sure it's not going to perform as well because that's a ray tracing benchmark. Okay, currently running Port Royal. It's the ray tracing benchmark, so the visuals and also the benchmark test is longer. So I'm showing you now just to show you where the temperatures are. 59C, and of course the clock speeds, which I'm still impressed by. It's just amazing how high they really clocked up that GPU. And so we'll show you the card. So very quiet. Just a very slight hint of coil line. I don't even know if you can hear it. Very slight hint, but very unnoticeable. Of course, if your case closed, you wouldn't even hear it. But so there's the card running. So we'll show you the score after it's done. Okay, just finished the benchmark, so we're gonna see it live. The score. Okay, so Port Royal. Oh yeah, very low score compared to say a NVIDIA card, like a 30 series card. So 5,927. Graphics score of 5,927. Oh yeah, that's what I said. So yeah, so a little bit lower than I thought actually, but I guess that's what you expect with the current generation Radeon card. Just not as good as ray tracing in the 3D Mark. And just to compare real quick to my Asus TUF 3090, this is the score I got with that card. Of course, that's a higher end GPU. Of course, it's going to be a lot higher, but I just wanted to show you a comparison. Now, this was with my CPU at 4.7 GHz, so keep that in mind. So it's a little bit higher CPU clock and overclock also with the GPU. And then TimeSpy, which was 19,555 for the 3090. So yeah. Just wanted to show you that little comparison compared to the 6700 XT. Okay, so the first torture test, Red Dead Redemption 2. So this is the GPU at stock clocks with just a power limit raised and sitting at 60 frames per second at 1440p max settings. I'll show you my graphics settings. Oops, that's the wrong one. Okay, so 1440p. Just kind of slowly scroll through all the settings, ultra texture quality. I do have MSAA off because obviously you don't need it 4K, especially for this card. This is going to be a little bit harder to do with that, which I could do on a 3090 at a really high setting, but not too high. And then the advanced graphics settings are all basically set, I think, to the highest setting. I believe that's all the highest setting they can go to. I remember. This is what basically the settings I had for the 3090. Oh, let's turn the water physics all the way up. Reflection MSA off, MSAA off, and yeah, everything else is good for quality all the way high. Tree tessellation on, so let's see. Okay, so just kind of riding around the horse. Again, GPU temperature is amazing. Really low frames per second, 62 frames per second. I realize I could do this with the capture, but I just want to kind of do this all in one video instead of having to edit a bunch of different stuff, so try to go a little bit faster. So yeah, really good frames per second. I'm sure the Resizable Bar is also helping influence that frames per second. $60C, $61C, so again, really good low temperatures. And the card is dead silent, other than a slight height to coil while, like in the 3D Mark benchmark, but very quiet overall. You can barely even hear it, honestly. So yeah, looks like that's where that's sitting, so let's go by the water. Looks like the frames per second went a little bit lower. So the water, of course, brought it down just a little bit. But yeah, very playable. 1440p, basically max settings from what I recall. So that's that game. So we'll try another game next. Okay, so now we're in Cyberpunk 2077, which is another good game to benchmark. So this is with ray tracing disabled because I don't think it's enabled yet for AMD cards. And so 1440p max settings sitting at 33 frames per second. So I'll show you the graphics settings really quick. So 1440p, as I said earlier. And then the graphics, turned off filigrane, turned off chromatic aberration, however you say that. And motion blur I could also turn off, but I'll just leave on high. I mean, it's not going to really make too much of a difference right now. Focus a little bit better there. So yeah, these are all the highest settings, which I had it on my other card, my RTX 3090. Of course, ray tracing, it doesn't seem to be able to enable it, so I'm guessing on the AMD cards you can't enable it currently. Of course, there's no DLS, it's an NVIDIA feature, and then the fidelity, I put off, and all that other stuff is off, so. And I do have HDR enabled, so. So even with ray tracing off, I mean, the graphics quality is still really good because everything else is maxed out. Keep in mind, I'm driving with basically one hand because I'm holding the camera with one, so keep that in mind for when you see probably from poor driving. So basically around 33, 34 frames per second, which is perfectly playable. I'm sure if I lowered a few settings, I could probably bring it up higher. Again, those GPU temperatures are phenomenal. I mean, that's even lower than the Asus TUF RTX 3090, which already was a pretty cool running card. Oh, did not mean to do that. And then that clock speed is also amazing. And then here's the card, dead silent. For some reason on this game, I'm not hearing any coil line. But see, even without ray tracing, man, it still looks like a good game. I mean, graphics wise, okay, look like the frames per second went up a little bit higher, 40 frames per second. So, you know, perfectly playable. This is kind of like, you know, how it would be like on a console, only it would be a little bit probably lower graphics settings. Because I also have the Xbox Series X, which I played this game on also. It's sitting right here. I could probably be able to see it. But yeah, so this is obviously, I think, a better GPU than the one in the Xbox Series X because it's got a little bit more teraflops of power. But yeah, perfectly playable. Max settings 1440p. So okay, let's try to. I didn't realize I pushed record. So now doing Watch Dogs Legion. This is at 1440p with ray tracing at medium. I'll show you the graphics settings and I'll show you that next. Okay, as you can see, Radeon 6700 XT, 1440p. I think that everything here is maxed out. Okay, environment. I'll have to keep it on high because this is actually a more demanding game because with ray tracing enabled. So I'll put everything at high. So not necessarily max settings, but very high is I got the headlight shadows of the 4 cars. Anti-aliasing FXSA, which is not as hard. Ray tracing reflections. Oh, I set it at high. Let's put it at medium because I think high is a little bit too demanding. Of course, there's no DLS, extra details. I'll keep that off. And let's see. So yeah, perfectly playable. Kind of like a console experience also on this one. With ray tracing at medium and everything else at the high. Temperatures are even more amazing in this game, 56C, so very low temperatures. But yeah, perfectly playable. Kind of like a, you know, seems to be in the 30s frames per second range. And then the card, again, dead silent, as expected. Okay, so let's check out the next game. Okay, so now we're testing Battlefield 5. Now this is with ray tracing on, and so we're setting at 66 frames per second, and I will show you the graphics settings. So keep in mind, I'm only got one hand free, so this is not the easiest thing to get through all this. So we're at a 4K resolution. Now this game is kind of tailored to AMD cards. I don't think 4K is going to be an issue with this particular game. So film grain off, chromatic aberration off, advanced settings. So HDR on. Focus a little bit better here. Texture quality ultra. Everything's ultra basically. Anti-aliasing TAA high, and then the ray tracing reflection I set to medium. I tried high and it was a little bit kind of not playable. It was under under 60 frames per second, which is ideal for most games. So let's get into the game. I'm going to be playing with one hand, so my actual playing is going to be a little bit messed up. So I'm just going to kind of left and right instead of having to turn the camera. 60 frames per second, which is perfectly playable. Looks like the GPU is sitting at, looks like this one gets the GPU temperature a little bit higher, 61 C. I'm not even gonna be able to shoot these guys, so I'm just gonna kind of run into them and let them shoot me and show you the frames per second. But yeah, as you can see, 60 frames per second, so that's that particular game. I'm dying anyways. Okay, now this is Forza Horizon 4. I had to turn off the music on that earlier clip there because I didn't want to copyright ban. Okay, so now this one doesn't show you the MSI afterburning overlay, so basically I gotta use this small one here. So GPU sitting at 81 frames per second, and then driving the Super Duper XSTI. Wouldn't have it any other way. A little bit harder to show the frames per second because it's very small, but I'll do my best to show you and show you the gameplay. Okay, so I'll show you the graphics settings real quick. Okay, so there's also the AMD kind of tailored game, so 4K, dynamic optimization off, frame rate unlocked, VSync off, HDR enabled. And let's go to advanced, ultra setting. Everything's basically ultra and extreme. Basically the highest setting you could go. This is what my 3090 only runs it at. So extreme. I got MSA. I don't even need to have it on, but I have it at 2x because this game is, again, not very hard on the GPU. So everything basically extreme. That 2.5 liter Boxer 4 engine sounds pretty nice. I have to say, they did pretty good at the sound on this. .100 frames per second, which is phenomenal, basically. Now again, I'm filming with one hand, so this is not the easiest test to do and drive. Driving with one hand, filming with one hand. So yeah, frames per second are really good. Again, this is an AMD tailored game, so it's designed to run pretty good. So definitely better than the Xbox Series X experience, which is also already optimized for the Series X. So yeah, kind of proves the point that this card is faster than the Xbox Series X GPU, which of course is a APU basically, so not fully dedicated GPU like this card would be. But don't get me wrong, the Xbox Series X is still an amazing console for what it is, and I haven't really been playing it at all. I've had it launch, but I'm kind of waiting for games to basically be better tailored for it with you know, all the hardware that it has, which I think will still take a while. So yeah, very more than playable. Okay, so I think that kind of shows you a pretty good example of a bunch of different games. And then next, now I'm not a miner, so keep that in mind, but I'm just going to show you very briefly what the hash rate is on this card with some Nicehash mining, and then show you the profitability. So I'll show you that next. Okay, so briefly just setting up the mining really quick. Now this is also using my AMD Ryzen 5950X, so keep that in mind. Profitability, 4.55 US dollars per day, 24 hours. And then hash rate, not too bad for a mid-range card. Not bad. And then of course the fans did ramp up a little bit higher because mining is very memory intensive. So yeah, not too bad. Okay guys, so I guess that wraps it up. So I basically showed you a bunch of our gaming tests and with frames per second, benchmarks, and I guess that pretty much kind of sums up the PowerColor AMD Radeon 6700 XT. So very good mid-range card. Now, not exactly the best for ray tracing, but you know, at medium quality, nothing too high, more than playable for the most part. Now, of course, when Cyberpunk 2077 enables ray tracing, of course, it's going to bring those frames per second I had earlier of 30 even lower. So, yeah, overall, I think it was a pretty solid GPU, and yeah, I guess that kind of wraps up my review. So, thanks for watching. I appreciate every subscription, and thank you for all the support. I just want to say, stay positive in life, keep doing what you enjoy doing, and hopefully everyone's doing good, and wish you the best. So thanks for watching. LuceWreck signing out, and that's my full review of the AMD Ryzen 6700, or AMD Radeon 6700 XT. I'm so used to saying Ryzen because that's my CPU. So thanks for watching. I'm signing out, and stay tuned for more videos. So see you guys around. Thanks for watching.